Legal Studies 110. This is your week 1 podcast. This week's podcast and my subsequent post will be short as a result of all the other things I've asked you to read and listen to in this important foundation-setting first week of the course. I realize that this seems like a lot for you and me. And I'm going to ask that you keep in mind that as a result of the college focusing on being an institution with primarily 8-week courses, the expectation for earning credit in a 3-hour college course, this or any other course, requires that students plan on committing 6 hours of class time. In other words, if this were a traditional class and we were getting 3 hours credit or offering 3 hours credit in an 8-week course, you would be expected to sit in a seat in a classroom on campus for 6 hours a week. In addition, you would still be expected to read textbook, instructor-provided OER, or whatever, prior to coming to class. Plus, you'd have out-of-class time to complete any assignments. For this online class, you'll have pre- and post-class reading, research, and assignments and class discussions. So, in a traditional class like this, or in any legal studies class, really, because we've been hybrid or online for a long time, and we've been wholly online since COVID. So what I would always tell people over a 16-week course is you should plan on between 6 and 9 hours a week for this course. Some of you may be in legal research, and for legal research, which hopefully is still 16 weeks for as long as I can keep it that way, because that's a course that needs to be taken over time because it's a skill that you need to develop. For that course, I would tell people initially the first 8 weeks of that 16-week course, plan on 6 to 12 hours. And as you develop your skills, you'd need less time. For this particular course, you should plan on between 6 and 9 hours of your time. Now, if you use that time to do the things that I ask you to do, and I try to line those things up as clearly as possible, you should have plenty of time. It shouldn't, in my estimation, take you 6 hours if, as covered in the orientations, you planned your time. You use your calendar. You review and update your calendar. And you do what you need to do in order to meet every deadline, whatever it takes, with no excuses. And you don't wait until hours before the deadline to start doing the work. In other words, if, for instance, I ask you to read chapters, and obviously it's going to be more than one chapter a week when we're taking an 8-week course. And this week I've asked you to read more than one, more than two. And so, hey, you read what you're supposed to read. You make the time. Whether that means that you put down your phone and you get off the TikTok, or you avoid going out with your friends, or you turn off the television, you make the time. You do what you're supposed to do to meet every deadline in this course, whatever it takes, with no excuses. It's the expectation for this in all of my courses because it's the expectation for working in any career that you may find yourself in involving the law. My expectation of you in this course or any of my courses to do these things has nothing to do with your grade. I could care less what grade you earn. Now, ideally, you earn the best grade possible, and you have a good grade point average when you leave. But most important to me is you understand and develop and accept the expectations of working in the law, you develop your skills, you develop practices in keeping a calendar and staying with the calendar, and then holding yourself accountable to do the things you need to do to the best of your ability with no excuses. That needs to be your expectation. And if you develop that expectation of yourself, and if you make that a practice, you will be successful, whether you stay in a career in the law or not. So enough of the preaching. Regarding the topics to be covered this week, I want to first and foremost talk about UPL. If you don't know what I'm referring to in UPL or as to UPL, then you didn't do the reading. So stop and go back and do it. If you did, you understand that Illinois has a statute that says no person shall be permitted to practice as an attorney or counselor at law within this state without having previously obtained a license for that purpose from the Supreme Court of this state. And that's under 750 ILCS 205 of our Illinois statutes. You will find a provision like that in every state. In fact, in any jurisdiction in the United States or outside of the United States that recognizes the practice of law and has some form of a lawyer or attorney, you will find some similar provision. I also asked you to take a look at the Illinois State Bar Association's webpage regarding UPL, and it makes it clear why we have that statute. It also provides a recurring or updated list of cases and examples as to why we have such a statute. Now, I know you can YouTube or TikTok and whatever other web-based resources may be available at any given moment to guide you in many DIY activities. I remember one of my now adult kids, I remember coming home and finding their vehicle up on a jack. Not a very stable jack situation either. With the wheel off and the iPad on the driveway, and he was changing brakes on his vehicle. I probably was scared to ride in that vehicle thereafter, but he was able to change the brakes on the vehicle. Now, I learned how to change brakes on a vehicle when I was in college because I had no money and because I had friends who knew how to do that, who had fathers who knew how to do that, and they showed me and helped me and they guided me and they did it with me. The point being is that you can find all sorts of resources to tell you how to do nearly everything, right? How to make about any kind of food you want to make, how to do most repairs in your house, all kinds of things. The difference is that changing your own brakes on your vehicle based on something you learned from the internet or some video you watched while you did it is not illegal. It is illegal to provide legal advice or legal services directly to your mother, your grandfather, your friend, your neighbor, or the person behind you in the checkout line at the Walmart who's there letting the world know of their legal woes, right? It's illegal for you to do that without the supervision and approval of a lawyer. Approval being the approval of that lawyer's, the legal advice or the services. They sign off on it. They actually are involved in providing the service. It's illegal for you to do that unless you go to law school, pass the bar, become licensed, maintain your license. So if after completing our program you find yourself in a position where you are asked to give legal advice or legal services to someone, anyone, even when directed to do so by a non-lawyer employer supervisor, think about UPL. Do not cross this line, as tempting as it may be. The fact is that you will likely be, and many of my graduates over the years are as competent as the lawyers they work for, maybe more so. But the reality is if you do want to provide legal advice and services directly to the public, you need to get your law degree. Pass the bar exam, be admitted to the practice of law, and maintain that privilege with yearly processes of obtaining or paying for your license, being duly licensed, and then meeting continuing legal education requirements that are placed on lawyers in the state of Illinois and in pretty much every other jurisdiction. Now, we have graduates working in all types of positions in local, state, and federal government where the law dictates their duties and their daily activity. We have graduates working in various private sector positions in headquarters of Fortune 50 corporations like State Farm, Caterpillar, Walmart. I keep mentioning Walmart. Walmart's headquarters in Benton, Arkansas. We have a couple graduates working there in the corporate law office of Walmart and in risk management there. We have a graduate who's the vice president of compliance for the largest marine insurer in the world based out of Tokyo, Japan. She works in their U.S. office in Houston. There are a variety of career paths that the legal studies program will open doors to, and yes, it will also support and help anyone inclined to pursue law school and getting into, and especially through law school, with greater success than if you had not completed this program. But understand what UPL is, okay? That said, the textbook chapters I asked you to read for this week and the ISBA resource I provided regarding the various careers or possibilities in the law should have opened your eyes to the possibilities for working in the law. And that's the primary focus of this week. The focus this week is to ease into the possibilities of where a passion for and an interest in working with the law could take you. And it's definitely something, just my opinion. I've been involved in law and justice since I started studying it in the early 1980s. Since first raising my right hand and taking an oath to support and abide by the Constitution of the United States and Illinois and all laws of the United States and Illinois as a 21-year-old in 1985, and as a lawyer since 1990. There are many possibilities. But I will tell you that based on my experience, both personally and through having been associated with, working with, and now for, almost 3 decades, teaching, coaching, mentoring students who entered careers in law and justice and at this point have had careers in law and justice and retired. Excuse me. I will tell you that the law is something that you either enjoy and find to be a passion something that you process well and you can work within? And if it is that, you'll also determine that there are many things you can do, and you'll find opportunities, many opportunities, and you shouldn't be afraid to try any of them. Now, next week, we will expand on the UPL concept as we focus on professionalism and working with the law and the ethical and code of professional responsibility that dictates our responsibility to the law. More importantly, to serving other people as they navigate, deal with, and look to the law to help them achieve a peaceful and prosperous life. And that's a theme that if you have me in classes, you'll hear me repeat, because that is really, the most basic summary of what I've found as being my guidepost and the reason that I've always had a passion for law and justice and anything I've done within the law. From law enforcement to being a lawyer to being a mediator, arbitrator, a hearing officer, prosecutor, and many years teaching and sharing my passion for the law. What I've held to is that the law provides the guidelines. It provides a basis for all of us to achieve the most peaceful and prosperous life we might or we can in a community, in a society, in a state, and in a country. Next week will be content specific on those things, ethics and professional responsibility. I look forward to seeing what you post this week. I always end these podcasts for people that haven't had me for class with the following. If you need me, you know where to find me. I won't mention this again, and many of you know that if you reach out to me, email, phone, however, that we'll find a way to connect. If you have course-specific questions, content-specific questions, post those to the course. Because if you have the question, everybody else does. If you have career or education-specific to you questions, or if you're applying for a job, or if you want to know about something related to a particular job or an employer, find me, okay? You have career questions, find me, and we'll talk about it. And especially when you get to the employment and internship stages, you can talk to your advisors all that you want, but your advisors aren't going to know about those expectations or the status of career opportunities. They don't. They manage 60 different programs and however many hundreds of students. So come to me for that. If you need me, you know where to find me.